an interesting question from Aaron in Florida. Pronouns are he, him. Welcome. You had a question for us.
Hey, what's up? So,
hello, Aaron.
my question is, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, Matt. I've heard you say a few times that my goal isn't to get rid of religion. That's just a side effect of secular humanism. Is that correct?
I suppose so. I mean, I don't set out to say, oh, let's get rid of religion, because that's not skepticism. It's just that from what I can see, the proper result of applied skepticism is that religions go away. The foundation, these beliefs go away.
Right. Would that imply a certain continuity in how people would think and process the world? Like, in order for everyone, let's say over a several generational time period, assuming secular humanism got implemented, people with very linear, logical mindsets would have to stick with that continuity. I feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, given the fact that people's intelligence compartmentalization is so different, that religion will just sort of spontaneously generate no matter what, just because certain people don't appreciate logic. Would you say that's accurate at all?
I don't know that I understand the question. You're talking about types of people and how they think, and I don't think about people in those terms.
Okay, I was more so thinking about how you could quantify intelligence, or how people read the world. I
don't know how to do that.
Subsets of IQ.
I don't know how to do that. I'm not a fan of IQ and IQ scores, because basically they're telling you how good you are at taking IQ tests. And I know people with incredibly high scores who are dumber than a sack of hammers when it comes to a variety of subjects. And I know some people with incredibly low scores who have just absolutely undeniable brilliance. So I think that you're definitely quantifying something, but there's nothing about religious. There's nothing about religious belief that has anything to do with intelligence. Plenty of intelligent people believe things for bad reasons. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we know is that some people who are incredibly intelligent are very good at rationalizing reasons for believing things that they came to believe for really bad evidence. You just fall prey to your biases. We're all flawed thinkers. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what's the question. What's the question you're trying to get to? Because
Okay. So I kind of went on a rabbit trail there, just responding to what you're saying. The crux of my question, just to put that kind of on the side, was I'm a trainer and a volunteer for the suicide hotline for about 2 years. And whenever I'm sort of taking calls and really getting in with people who have zero materialistic incentive to live, everything about their life that you could possibly conceive of is terrible. We're trained specifically not to problem solve because the weight of their issues are so immense, it would be futile to really engage. So one of the things that we do in the call is just sort of process their emotions. And towards the end of the call, you come up with a plan if you're successful, if they don't hang up or whatever. And one of the things I found to be very useful, doesn't work for everyone, but it's a very interesting technique, is when someone's material landscape is totally destroyed, the idea of something transcendent, it doesn't have to be a specific religion or anything, but the idea of God can keep them on earth longer or give them reasons to live that something that comes from a purely self-contained materialistic worldview can't replicate. I've tried it before on the phones.
So just because you haven't found the thing that for a given person resonates with them and to the same level of effectiveness as a comforting lie, doesn't mean that's the only way, and it doesn't mean that that's the best way. I've said before that if somebody thinks they would be, an axe murderer if they stopped believing in God, that I would rather they continue believing it, even though it's absurd. But that doesn't have any bearing on whether or not it's true. The fact that something is useful, the fact that something may have positive benefits, has no bearing on whether it's true, and I care whether it's true. You can inspire and encourage people to do great things and awful things, and you can inspire and encourage people with things that are not true, just like Dumbo's magic feather.
Does the truth matter?
Yes, the truth matters.
Saying that something that is true?
Go ahead, Apostle.
For example,
I mean, I just want to say, I just want to say, there is, you might be against religious beliefs. You might be against the idea of believing in God. You might find it absurd and all that. You might even go out of your way and judge people for having religious beliefs, and might think that people believe in stupid things because they are stupid. But the issue is, as pointed out, people don't just believe in absurd things because they are stupid. People believe in things for a variety of things, because they are indoctrinated into it, because they see it as a way of escaping reality, because they find comfort within that. There are so many reasons why people hold specific beliefs. As has been established, people with very low intelligence might believe in some very great things and come to very great conclusions. On the other hand, people who are extremely intelligent might believe in extremely stupid things, and might find good reasons to believe in those, and might justify and rationalize them. One of the bad things about talking to people and talking about a life without religion is people learn to live their lives, especially if they are educated based on the foundations of religion. They learn to live their lives with the purpose of serving a specific religious belief or a specific God. And if they live their lives that way, I grew up in a very religious family. If they suddenly find themselves in disbelief and cannot believe in God anymore, then it might they might end up losing hope and not understanding why they should now still go on. And I
Right.
was there, and sometimes I still
right, it's
find
like an
myself
identity
there.
crisis.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
If you tell somebody that they should continue living when they can't come up with any other reason because God wants them to, well, the second they stop believing in a God, now you've taken away their reason. But if you
yeah.
convince someone that it's in there that continuing to live, that life is its own reward, that it gives you the opportunity to learn, to love, to enjoy things, and grow, and this other stuff, you may not be able to convince everybody. You may not uh, that may not be enough for some people, but at the end of the day, it's true. And the reason that it's not going to be enough for some people is because of the other big lies that we've consistently told people. We consistently, for centuries, have told people, oh, you've got a soulmate, or there's somebody who cares about you even when somebody else doesn't, or there's a meaning and purpose to life that transcends you. All of these things are not demonstrably true. And when somebody finds that out, it leads to an exacerbation of nihilism. When there's nothing, I'm not nihilistic. I went and had surgery to put 3 grafts on my heart so that I could continue living. Why? Well, it has nothing to do with a God. It has nothing to do with some existential angst. It is, I enjoy living. I wanted to kiss my girlfriend again. I wanted to eat a good meal again. I wanted to have another conversation on this show. I wanted to learn something
Right.
new that I didn't know before. I wanted to go explore something. All of those things are real and tangible. That doesn't, we're not going to
Yeah, but
fix
they
mental
fall
health
in the
issues.
same.
And hang on, I'm still talking. We're not going to fix mental health issues with lies. The only thing we're going to do is cover them up with a band-aid. And when those lies are the foundations of religions that have been the worst when it comes to mental health issues, proclaiming people are demonically possessed, etc., and shunning psychology and psychiatry, I think we've done even more damage.
Okay, is it my turn?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I don't know if you're going to be a smartass, your turn's over.
No, I was just sort of matching the energy. But anyways, when I was, you said something. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. You were talking about how there's something tangibly and demonstrably true about how accepting the reality is full of possibilities, and life is this sort of like this jack in the box where good things can happen. That is not a demonstrably true statement for certain people who, let's say you retroactively look at their history, they were born with AIDS in Africa and died it too, and nothing of substantial good happened to them. I don't know how you can say that there isn't any way to lie about making sort of a prediction of how life is going to get better when you're dealing with someone who has like suicidal tendencies or has had a terrible life. I feel like if the result is the same and you stop someone from committing suicide, about not necessarily promises that life will get better, but like a philosophical development, something that helps them like tether themselves to the world a little bit more.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a lie or not. The effect is the same.
No, it does matter whether or not it's a lie. And also, Aaron, I'm not suggesting that we should tell everybody that there's going to be good things in their future. We're talking about normatively. There are normative experiences where people are almost everybody, the overwhelming majority of everybody, are still going to have good experiences in their future. There are exceptions where the quality of life for people is so bad that it is more desirable for them to stop living than to continue living. I am in favor of individual sovereignty to end one's life when one wants to, with some exceptions. I think we have a responsibility to make sure that people aren't terminating their lives for finite, flawed thinking. But somebody who's riddled with cancer, whose life is nothing but pain, who has no real hope of continuing, I am in favor of it being legal, honorable for them to kill themselves and to have that be assisted.
May I add something?
Sure.
So here's the thing. If you are completely focused on, I don't know, an atheistic way of thinking and you cannot relate to the religious way of living, it might become a little bit unclear how people think. But the thing is, some people really think that they are in such desperate need to believe in something because otherwise they will die, or otherwise they will, end their own lives and all that. And I can sympathize with that. I can relate to that. The issue is, I'm not scared of admitting that for many people who, I don't know, live or think a specific way, a life without a divine being which prescribes a specific meaning for them, such a life is very hard. It is painful. It is full of suffering. It might be a terrible life for them. Life itself might be described as a terrible thing, as full of suffering. And I'm not shy of admitting that. I myself admit that. The issue is, you can take medication for that, and one of those forms of medication is religion. This doesn't necessarily mean that the medication that you're taking is good or bad, but you're simply medicating yourself because your existence is suffering. You could find different ways to treat yourself and to decrease your suffering, or you could just go with religion, which might be a very simple way to live. I could even say it and admit that if I believed in my old religion, in Islam, and simply submitted to that mindlessly, I might be much more at peace, in that state. But I might be following a bunch of falsehood and nonsense. I might be more at peace at the expense of fooling myself and making a fool out of myself and not achieving anything that I have the potential for. So I think the best thing for me would be to realize or to analyze why religion makes me happier, what it gives to me, and then to realize also that the foundations of these religious beliefs are false, but to take certain things from these religions and to apply them to my life without needing to rely on falsehoods. And there are so many things that you can do that with. You can meditate, you can educate yourself on psychology and get better. There are many different ways, but yeah, that's basically my take on it.
I have a question for you, Aaron, and that's this. I have a question for you, Aaron. When I'm talking about this, of course, I've said before, of course, you can convince people to keep living because of a lie. And so you can convince people that they shouldn't kill themselves because suicide is against God or someone in their family needs them. But would you agree that that may actually be doing harm? Or is it just your presumption that death is to be avoided at all costs, including sacrificing the truth?
Well, it's very difficult for me to take such a universal thing and try to compact it into a finite, no exception example. What I would reply with that a half-ass way of addressing it would be that there's certain moments where when people take a placebo in medical trials, that the effect of the placebo matches the physiological change of the actual drug that actually has a mechanism to cure them. And it doesn't really matter like which one holds true. What matters is the placebo.
Yeah, you're completely avoiding my question. You're completely avoiding my question.
I'll rephrase it.
You want me to rephrase the question?
Yeah, say it again.
Is it your position that death is to be avoided at the cost of truth? That there are there any circumstances that you can perceive where death would, could, and should be preferable to life?
Is there any example where I could foresee where death would be preferable to life?
Yes.
I don't think if I could play like Sims here and create a world, I think of the example you gave where somebody is like destined, no matter what, they are terminally ill. I think death would be probably preferable to life. But in terms of my own immediate knowledge, I don't think I could really ever make that call. Especially I'm a medical student. So in like the medical world, things radically change on a consistent basis. So with my own knowledge, I couldn't definitively say, but if I was able to look back on a scenario, I would say, yeah, they were better off dying.
So I'm confused because it seemed like you answered the question both ways, saying that you couldn't imagine a scenario where people would be better off dying, and then ended by saying there are scenarios where people would be better off dying. So are there or are there not scenarios in which, and are there or are there not scenarios in which death would be preferable to life?
Yeah, there's scenarios. I couldn't evaluate until
then who gets to decide for an individual when death is preferable to life?
Was I making that claim?
I asked a question, Aaron. I said, who gets to decide for an individual when death is preferable to life?
I'm assuming the individual, from my perspective, because when they call, it's them stating a preference. So I'd say the individual.
And so if they've decided that death is preferable to life, and you lie to them to convince them that to keep living, aren't you both doing potential harm and attempting to override the autonomy and sovereignty of the individual in question while acknowledging that it should be their choice?
Well, that's not what I do. When I have a conversation,
no, you don't get to do that. You got to answer the question, because you're talking about how it's okay. You were making the case earlier that it was okay to lie. And I'm not saying you're wrong.
Disagree with my statement with that. I think maybe lies are harmful, and I would want to rephrase that. I would say that was an improper phrasing on my part. What I would say is, when I have a conversation, you could probably distill it to a lie. I try to create an inquisitiveness about existential questions like religion and God, and that sparks hope. I don't make promises of like, you're going to go to hell if you commit suicide. I was sort of trying to, for brevity's sake, describing it in a way that was very succinct. But I don't lie to them. I ask them questions that cause them to think on a philosophical level, which isn't tethered to reality, which gives them hope to continue, if that clarifies anything.
Well, except that what you started with was talking about how religion is useful for keeping people from killing themselves, irrespective of whether or not it's true. And my point was that the truth matters, and you seemed to reject that.
I guess there's a conflict here, since Aaron works in a suicide hotline, and his job is to, prevent people from, committing suicide. So, I mean, there is a specific goal here that has to be met in one way or another. So, philosophizing too much about what you can and cannot use in order to prevent that death from happening might not be really in favor of the job that he's actually doing. I guess then that's where a conflict is here.
Well, I don't think it's in favor of well-being to exclude that potentially from the realm of possibilities. And by removing religion, you effectively can exclude that from the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. I don't know what you just said or what that means or how it relates to this, because as we established at the beginning of the call, I didn't set up as a goal and don't have as a goal the elimination of religion. I have as a goal the elimination of all false claims. If that includes all religions, okay, tough shit. But to suggest, as you are, or as you have earlier, that religions, whether they're true or not, are useful, is completely irrelevant to the question of whether or not they're true. It's also completely irrelevant to whether or not you are in any position to use them against people, because the people who use religions against people to go against their wishes are fucking liars, and they are doing harm. Now, I think that you've got it in your head that if you manage to help someone stay alive, that you have done less harm than if they were allowed to kill themselves. And I reject that premise as not demonstrably true.
Well, I mean, trying to demonstrate anything is demonstrably true when I don't have like a vacuum where I can examine all variables is pretty much insane. Like this is a level of scrutiny.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't know how to reason in the abstract and consider moral questions without a fucking beaker, Aaron. But those are the consequences of your position.
Hey, I'm a med student. What can I say? I'm in the scientific world.
Yeah. And so what does that have to do with whether or not it is right or wrong to use religions to stop people from killing themselves?
Because to think the truth is something that's an inherent good is something I'm not going to agree with. Like,
okay, I'm sorry, but you're flat wrong, and this is demonstrable. I can't put it in a beaker for you, but whatever the truth is, you can have a comforting lie, and you can be better off thinking and believing a lie. But when you find out what the truth, if there's a truth out there to find out, how can you suggest that that's not a good thing?
I think we have very much established a point here.
Because understanding, if you know that your wife has been cheating on you during, let's say, your entire relationship, and you find out about it and it crushes your entire world, or the opposite where you don't find out about it and everything was smooth sailing, quote unquote, I would say not knowing the truth is better for you, assuming the outcome is better. I don't.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You are absolutely undeniably wrong. Because what's happened there is you no longer exist in a reality. You're the one who's running around with a flawed understanding of reality, and you continue to invest time and energy and effort into a relationship where you are being fucking used. You are dismissing all of the other consequences and saying that all of those other consequences don't add up to the sadness of finding out the truth that you were being cheated on. Whereas, you know what the truth does? It sets you free. It allows you to end that relationship. It allows you to value your own life. It allows you to stand up and say, you know what? I'm done with this flawed, toxic relationship, and I'm going to go out into the world to pursue another relationship. Because if you stay in that toxic relationship, you have no motivation and no freedom to go out and find a better relationship. You are simply wrong on this, Aaron.
That's hindsight bias. What I'm referring to is when you don't know the existence of an alternative reality, which would be your wife.
You don't get to suggest ignorance of the truth puts you in any more touch with reality. Now you're the one who's being looked at and laughed at and mocked by the people who are abusing you. You may not know it, but ignorance is not the same thing as accepting a lie.
Where's the distinction for you?
One is where you have accepted a claim from someone that is not true. And the other one is you don't know. See, accepting the claim that your spouse is being faithful is a lie. Not knowing that they're cheating is not necessarily accepting a lie. But in both cases, you are out of touch with reality. And I'm done with here's a scenario. And none of it ties to the question at hand, which is it a good idea to get rid of religion, which is what the original issue was.
Should we move on to the next call? Maybe?
Yeah.